This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. We're fortunate tonight to have as our guest one of my old friends, Jim Perdue, the probate judge of Crenshaw County. Jim's actually running for re-election this year, but he and I have been friends a long time, and he's done a great job as probate judge of Crenshaw County. We're glad to have him on our show tonight.
Thank you, Steve. It's good to be here. I noted when we came in there was a list of your many guests, and you've had some celebrities in politics sitting in this chair, but I don't think you've had anyone as close a contemporary as you and I are.
Folks, Jim Perdue and I are 48 hours apart.
That's right.
I'm not going to tell you how old we are, but his birthday is September the 3rd, and mine's September the 5th, and we go way back. Of course, you know, Crenshaw and Pike County are almost like one and the same. With a lot of, but Jim's got a lot of kin folks, and he was. Your mom was a farmer?
My grandmother was a farmer in the Goshen community, and still they have the farmer reunion. Had it earlier this spring.
Right there on the Crenshaw-Pike County line.
That's right. My grandfather was Virgil Perdue, and he helped the rural electrification project, and his name's actually on a historical marker there in Goshen. So, yeah, Pike and Crenshaw are like sister counties.
Really are. Have the same media, same shopping market, and kind of Montgomery for a lot of things. And but Jim's not always been in politics like some of us have. He was a businessman for about 20 or 30 years. Had Perdue Farmer owning
a construction company. We did. Steve, actually, I began my career in banking. I was with the Federal Reserve Bank for about 10 years.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to school at Auburn and majored in accounting, and I went to Miami with the Federal Reserve Bank for
right
a little while.
College?
Right out of college. I started the bank down there and then moved to Birmingham. And I got so close to Crenshaw County and home, I had to figure a way to come back, and I did, and got in the construction business. And
how old were you about that, in your 20s?
I was in my late 20s. That's exactly right.
In a construction business there. And
that's right.
About 20 years, wasn't it?
I did. I built convenience stores all over the South Alabama and really the Southeast.
Some for Ben McNeil, probably.
I did for Ben McNeil and Tom Russell and some of the local jobbers, Leslie Watson, etc. A really good business. I enjoyed it. It gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people all over the state, and also active in the Alabama Oilmen's Association, and that's where I got my taste of politics.
Yeah, and so what year did you become probate judge?
I took the oath in January of 2002.
So you've been probate judge for a decade now.
That's exactly right. A little over 10 years now. And I've served with some mighty good people in Crenshaw County. A lot has happened. You know, most people, when they think of probate office, they think of buying tags, or the hunting and fishing license, or recording a deed, or something like that. Most people use the probate office for that, but it's those rare occasions that people need it for some of the legal work that they get exposed to my office.
Jim, when you became, talking about that, and you're right about that, not all of our viewers, some of them that are our age or older, realize the change in the probate judges since you and I have been born. When we were little boys, the probate judge in Alabama, not just in our area of the state, in Crenshaw, Pike, Butler, were the most powerful political figures in every county. They were kings of the county. And one of the things, the reason they were kings is it was a 6-year term. And the probate judge was on the fee system. I don't know if any are left on the fee system or not anymore, but he's since passed away. But we had a powerful probate judge who was the epitome and classic of that sample. Ben Reeves in Pike County served about 24 years as probate judge.
You had Ben Reeves, we had Tom Harbin.
But in Crenshaw, Butler had Judge Beelan.
That's correct.
And there's another story about that to show you how powerful they were. But those guys, I've been told on pretty good authority that those guys back in the 1960s, in the counties our size, 25, 30,000 population, were making $100,000 a year. That'd be equivalent to three or 400,000 a day, because they were on the fee system, y'all.
Well,
they got to cut off every tag. Jim Perdue's not on the fee system.
No.
He pays a salary, and a minimal salary over there in Crenshaw County.
That's
it's not
correct.
even that lucrative. I mean, I'm sure it's a good living, but it's not like those guys were making.
Well, Steve, actually, you didn't know what they made.
No, but he didn't tell anybody.
Because they were on the fee system. They collected the fees for your tags, and they collected fees for recording and all the other different transactions, and then they paid their staff and they kept what was left.
Exactly.
So it depends on how good a manager they were that determined how much money they made. And yes, it has changed quite a bit. Actually, in the state, there's only a couple of counties that are still on the fee, and some of those are about to change now.
Yeah.
There really may not be, but exactly two.
That day's passed, but they were, by a 6-year term, you're making that kind of salary in a rural county, which probably is as much as anybody in the county was making. I mean, any banker or anybody else was making in that area. And then you add that every time someone ran for office as governor, they came to the probate judges.
Well, the judge at that time, it wasn't really the salary that determined their strength. They were the chairman of the commission.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
They were elected countywide. Everybody that ran for office knew that the probate judge was the chief election official in the county. They kept the voter rolls. They ran the polls. They did all of that, and so they became the first person, if you were running for state office, you'd go see in a county, was a probate judge.
It is, and the old famous V.O. Key book about Southern politics enumerates the 5 Deep South states and says who were the most important figures. This is in the 40s through 60s even. In South Carolina, it was a state senator. They had omnipotent power. In Mississippi and Louisiana, it was a sheriff. But in Alabama, it was probate judge. He was the king of the county. Like you say, everybody came to him for everything, every favor, everything. I'm not saying the power is not there, but it's not the same office.
It's not the same. It's a very privileged position to serve as probate judge.
And it means more in a small area.
It's a blessing, and it gives you so many opportunities to help people. There are things that you must do in your office, but there's so many things that you can do in your office, and the probate judge's office gives you that. Now, back when you were, when a probate judge was the chairman of the commission, they were responsible for the budget. They were responsible for roads. Many of those things now are in the county commission's hands.
Right.
And so now we still have the administrative and the ministerial duties of a judge, of a probate judge, and that is with tags and licenses, and we're still the chief election official. But then we also have the judicial requirements, and the probate office is a court of original jurisdiction for things like wills and estates, or conservatorships, where someone is incapable of managing their financial affairs, and the court reviews the necessity and awards it to a conservator to help someone or a minor with their estate, or guardianships. We do adoptions. That's one of the best things we do. That's a very joyous occasion. But then again, we also do things like mental commitments. Most people don't realize the requirements of a judge, a probate judge in each county, to handle mental commitments, involuntary mental commitment of someone who may be a danger to themselves or a danger to their community, and we try to stabilize it. And it takes a good bit of time and a good bit of study and a lot of compassion to manage that part of the office.
Jim, you know, I don't know if all our viewers realize how many hats the probate judge has to wear in office, but you enumerated several of them. One of them being the election, your chief election official. You're over the tags. You're over, commitment hearings, your estates. Let's take them one at a time. Your tag stuff,
Steve, you may remember this. Do you remember there was a time when everybody bought their tag at the same time? Did you know that?
Oh, gosh, in the fall, wasn't it?
Right, that's correct. By the end of the fiscal year.
Now they do it on a birthday.
Now they do it so many a month for 11 months out of the year. And so it spreads it out. Also, at one time, you went to the tax assessor to get your car assessed.
And then go
value. And then you went to the collector and you paid the ad valorem part of your tax. And then you came to the probate judge and got your tag. It was a three-stop process. And there are very few that aren't one step. Now, since I've been in office, we made it a one-stop tag. You get an assessed, you get it appraised, you get your taxes paid, and you get your tag. And so that means you have fewer lines to stand in, and we also have more automation, and you spend less time. And that's true in most counties now. Most counties have evolved to the point that it's a lot more automation. It's a lot quicker, and therefore it's a lot more efficient.
Folks, I failed to mention this. Jim is just past being president of the Probate Judges Association, and I had the opportunity to speak with the group last 2010. Enjoyed visiting with them when y'all met at Gulf Shores. But that was a great honor to be head of the Probate Judges Association.
It really is. You know, there's 68 judges and a lot bigger counties. You know, Jefferson and Shelby and Mobile, and those are really big counties. And to be able to serve as president and represent the entire state as president, that was quite an honor. And now I gave that office up in March of this year, at the end of our term. But as president emeritus, I still have the opportunity to help our executive committee, and it's a lot of responsibility. A lot of things happen through the probate office that affect the legislature and things like the immigration law. It had a very strong effect on what we did as far as issuing tags. And
Jimmy knows Sandra Berry is my relative.
Yeah, I knew that. Sandra Berry was my chief clerk.
I knew that. Well, you had to replace her. She retired.
She retired. She still comes around the courthouse. She helps me with the absentee elections.
How many years has she been head of the tags, helping with the probate judge with the tag?
Well, she's not that old. I know she's going to be watching this. And so she probably wasn't in there but about 10. Well, she's I think she's younger than you and I.
Boyd and I were really kin. I'm kin to Sandra by marriage. My grandma was a Berry, lived right there on the Crenshaw. Grew up on the Henderson area down that way.
Sandra did a great job. You know, your chief clerk is a very, very important person to a judge, to any judge.
Who replaced her? Who you got in that job?
Selena Shepard is and she is very smart. She worked over actually in the Revenue Commissioner's office, so she has that experience and brought that in, and she does a fantastic job.
Jim, I've asked this question of other probate judges. I know you know exactly. How many would you guess out of the 67 counties the probate judge does the tags?
Well, I would say,
50 or 60?
Probably, not 60, probably 50, 55 still take that tag responsibility. Now, some counties are large enough that they actually have a licensing official that's separate from the Revenue Commissioner and the probate judge. But in smaller counties, like Pike County and Crenshaw County, there's no function in any county that Judge Wes Allen and I don't do.
You can do them by mail too now, can't you?
You can do them by mail or online. Yeah. We've got online tags, and that's developing. Most of what we do will eventually be online. There will be online court connection, so you can file a pleading online. You can buy your tags online as now. There will be online recording. There will be more and more. You know, in the next 10 years, I expect the computer to be a larger part of what we do than it is now.
It is. Jim, you know, getting off of subject, I got off my track, but I was thinking about really where I'm going and telling our viewers how many jobs the probate judge wears, how many hats he wears. You do all the elections, chief election officials, you're in charge of the tags, you have commitment hearings, you have estate things, you have probate wills.
Adoptions.
But now, let me ask you this question. In your day, and I've had Reese McKinney, the probate judge of Montgomery, on, and he says he is now spending his time so much in the courtroom because of commitment hearings. Bobby Junkins in Etowah tells me the same thing. He said, Steve said, when I became probate judge, the commitment hearings were not, he said, they ended, I could do nothing but that. Bill Stone, on the other hand, said the elections were driving him crazy. Well, so what do you think, if you had to put the time you spend on those four, let's say commitment hearings and adoptions and estate and probate wills, which are judicial jobs, and then you've got the elections and tags, which are administrative jobs, you're wearing two different jobs. Well, you really ought to have two jobs.
All of them require a lot of your time. Now, the immediacy of a mental commitment may require more of your time that's unplanned.
Like Junkins tells me. Is that what you hear your other probate judges say, the commitment here?
It's a lot of time that that when you think you have your day planned, and a mental commitment will change everything.
You got to stop.
Wills and estates are planned. The petition is set for a certain date. You work toward that date, and most of the times in a will and an estate, you're making sure that the law is adhered to. There's not a whole lot of controversy. It's inherent in a mental commitment that there's some controversy. These individuals are either suicidal or homicidal, or there's so much going on in our society that you see headliners.
And drugs makes a difference now.
And drugs and alcohol as well. But it's something that it's a changing environment in the mental health community right now, mainly driven by money. But right now the state's talking about closing most of the state mental hospitals.
What will happen?
We have this is not an option that we have. This is part of a federal law that has occurred, and they want to deinstitutionalize the mental health facilities and place these patients in the community. Now, we're blessed in Crenshaw. We have a very good hospital, a very sound board. We actually have a wing that handles people in crisis, and it's a good thing. It helps the hospital, but it's a very sensitive part of what we do.
I don't believe Troy's got a wing like that, do they?
No, we do not. We do not have one in Troy.
Now Montgomery's got one. Jackson,
and several hospitals will have that. And then most of these, or all of these, are going to be adult. You also have child and adolescent. We also have Beacon's Children's Hospital in Crenshaw County that serves the child and adolescent patient that needs this help in a very critical time.
They wake up in the middle of the night for hearings sometimes, don't they?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night, come and knock on your door and say,
I think
Judge?
Every policeman has my cell number.
How many times a month have you been waking up in the middle of the night with a commitment hearing?
Well, often. I wouldn't want to say how many times, but it's often. These are also very confidential. You can't go into a whole lot of anecdotal things because these people deserve the privacy that.
Well, don't you have to rely on the mental health specialists in your area?
You do. To
tell you whether
I'm the vehicle to help a family, help a friend. And through the probate office, we will commit someone to the care of a professional. And then once the professional determines the direction they need to go, then the court will handle an order to help them effect that. But when someone's unable to manage their own affairs because of their mental incapabilities, then that's where we step in, and we manage it for usually a very short period of time until we can get them under care, under somebody else's care.
You assign maybe a lawyer to look after that business?
We do. Everyone that's an incompetent or a minor has to have a court-appointed attorney known as a guardian ad litem.
Yeah.
And so you have someone to represent their best interest, and not to defend them per se, but to make sure they're getting the type of care and the representation they need in court. So,
Jim, I guess where I'm going with this thing, if you had to, and every day is different, if you had to take your hours in your day, not saying some old political hack like me who likes to sit and call you up and just talk politics, ask you what's going on in Crenshaw County, or get your feel of the state, because you are a very smart politician. I love to visit with you. I've got about a dozen or so friends I call around the state, and I've enjoyed our lunch today getting to talk about, Jim and I got to visit prior to the show, but not some old politician calling you like I do out of the woods. Your day, if you had to say, and it's not a typical day because you got to commitment hearings, but you've had to looking after the tags, sitting down with your chief clerk, doing probates, wills, and estates, the elections, on elections, and then commitment hearings and other duties, what percent would you say the probate judge in Crenshaw County or a typical middle-sized rural county?
Let me say this. Prior to my coming to this studio today, I did all of that.
Every one of them?
Every one of those came up this morning. From
a commitment too?
Even had a review of a commitment that that we were trying to.
Was it drug related?
No.
In
this case, this was actually someone who was not a whole lot older than us, but was suffering with dementia, was unable to manage their own affairs, and
you had some estate stuff too.
Had some estate stuff on someone who was deceased, and the family was concerned about a wrongful death, and to do a wrongful death, they have to have an estate, and this was establishing an estate. They wanted to get that in. I think the only thing I didn't do this morning was an adoption.
Is that right? So you actually had to sit down with your chief clerk about the tags too, didn't you?
Oh, I do, and then any other tag problems that we have. I have a very good staff. Most of the tags and title and licenses, they handle most of that. I handle the exceptions. Steve, you know what else I do? I do weddings.
That's right.
I do more weddings.
Bill Stone used to marry people all day long.
I do
just
more
walk in, want to get married.
Than all the people and all the preachers in the county combined.
They just walk in the office too, don't they?
I had a couple going to the beach one time from Birmingham and stopped in my office and said they wanted to get married. And I married them. And they came back about 5 years later. They had a child. They bought them a home and just wanted to say that they were still doing well.
Is that right?
So,
on the way to the beach?
On the way to the beach. Just
came in your office and I want to get married.
They were married in a fever, I guess.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, I do.
I bet you do a lot of marriages.
But I've gone as far as Huntsville to do a marriage. I can marry anybody inside the state. I had a friend of mine who worked up here in Montgomery with one of the agencies and wanted to get married up on the mountain at was it Mount Montesana, and I performed the wedding there. I'd been to a garden in Dothan and all.
Jim, now the guy who is head of the mental health thing, Jim Reddick's your relative.
Jim Reddick is really interesting. His grandfather was Judge Irby Reddick, who was the probate judge in Crenshaw County back in the 40s and 50s. His wife, Judge Reddick's wife, and my grandmother were sisters. And so Jim Reddick was Judge Irby Reddick's grandson. His name is James Falmer, and that's the Falmer connection, Reddick. So it's very nice to have him in. And during this critical time that we're trying to manage the mental health situation in Alabama, it's nice to have your cousin to come in, and he can talk with me and I with him, and we know we can. We don't have to do a whole lot of figuring out who we are. We already know who each other are.
Jim, you and old Wendell Mitchell were good friends. Old Wendell passed away.
We were.
Had Wendell on my show.
Walking Wendell was a dear friend of mine, and I had the very good fortune, as you know, to be part of his funeral service and did a eulogy. And he was quite an individual. I learned a lot about politics and a lot about service from Wendell Mitchell.
For years and years, we were talking about earlier in the show, when those probate judges were so powerful. You had Judge Beadle in Butler, Judge Harbin in Crenshaw, and Judge Reeves in Pike. They would sit down together and talk about being so powerful politically. They would decide who the senator was. They would decide, okay,
that doesn't happen now.
No, but when you and I were little, and I paged up here, it was a gentleman's agreement that Pike, Crenshaw, and Butler were in the same district. And Pike would have a House seat, and Butler would have a House seat, and they had about 25 or 30,000 population. And Crenshaw in the middle with 15 would get the senator. And Alton Turner was a senator.
Alton was.
Alton Turner
I was a page for Alton Turner when you were a page up here.
That's right, for Mr. Gardner.
Right.
See, so we were all in the same Senate and House district, and we had one senator from Crenshaw, Butler, and Pike, and Alton Turner was a senator from Crenshaw in the middle, which was a smaller county. And then on each side had a House seat. Mr. Gardner Bassett was a House member from Pike, and then Gene Harden, who had the Greenville Advocate, was a House seat from Butler. And I paid for both of them, and the probate judges would sit down and decide, which one would be the man or that sort of thing. That's how powerful they were. Yeah. But
well,
it was an interesting time.
We don't have the power that we had then, and but it's still a very privileged position. There's a lot of, we've talked about obligations of the office, and there are many, from wills and estates and conservatorships and mental commitments and adoptions. Those are things that are obligated. When someone petitions my court, I must handle them. But the opportunities that you have and getting to know people like you and I have gotten to know each other since we played high school ball against each other, but other people that are involved in politics, regardless of the party, you work together through your probate office, through your probate judge, and through the associations to get to know. There's many. I have served as president of the Mental Health Association for
which is a logical job.
Yeah, it is. And also on the South Central Development Commission. Jimmy Lunsford is the president, and I serve with Mayor Lunsford. And
now y'all in the same catchment mental health as Pike County?
No,
East Central.
Pike's in the East Central.
We're with Bullock and Macon,
Central.
yeah, that's right.
Correct.
Y'all in with Butler. And
Butler
I spoke to that group
Coffee.
one Christmas. Miss Ada Lee Williams
Ada
asked me
Lee.
to speak to that group, and I swear the
she's still very active in it.
I spoke and I told them some Big Jim stories, like I shared with y'all at the beach. And I had an old guy from Conecuh County. Conecuh's in y'all's catchment.
Right. And
he walked up to me and he says, this guy our age. He says, I grew up on a farm in Conecuh County. If Big Jim Folsom ran for governor right now, not Little Jim, if the old man Big Jim ran for governor, I'd vote for him.
Absolutely.
He paved our road.
Absolutely.
Half the roads in Pike, Crenshaw, and Butler are paved.
They were paved during that
Jim,
administration.
I'm going to ask you one question that I was thinking about politics. I have noticed this over the years. Here's Pike and Crenshaw next door to each other like brothers and sisters. And in Pike County, if you run for office and get elected, whether you do a good job or not, you hardly ever have opposition. I never had an opponent one time in my 16 years in the legislature. Jimmy Lunsford hardly ever had, nobody ever runs against him. But you cross that line in Crenshaw County, there must be a dozen people that run for sheriff every 4 years in Crenshaw. What is it about sheriff? Everybody wants to run against each other in Crenshaw County, only 15,000 people, and everybody wants to run for office over there.
But the funny part is the incumbent usually wins.
They win, but why in the world does everybody run for sheriff of Crenshaw County? Does it pay $1 million a year or something?
No.
What is that? Why they don't want that? Have you ever noticed that before?
I don't know why that happens.
I'd see those signs.
But you know, Charles West is our sheriff. He had 3 or 4 opponents this last time, and he defeated them all without a runoff. Yeah. It's not unusual.
But have you noticed that over the years?
I have.
That Crenshaw, for some reason, wants to run again. That everybody wants to run, especially sheriff.
It seems that way. But, you know, the good part about an opponent is it gives somebody an opportunity to encourage you.
Well, that's true.
You know, if I was unopposed, nobody would have a chance to come tell me, right. Sure hope you go back in and all. So it's good news and bad news.
And folks, speaking of that, speaking of elections, they're right around the corner. And Jim Perdue is running for re-election, folks, in Crenshaw County. Those of y'all who are watching in Crenshaw County, Jim's been probate judge for a decade now, and he's running. He'll be on the ballot come November, and he's got an old saying that old Bill Dickinson first used back when we were little. Bill was the only Republican guy elected in our area of the state, so he said, "Vote for Bill first, and then as you will. Vote first for Bill, then as you will." And Jim's got a thing, so he said, "Vote for Jim first.
Vote for me first,
and then vote for whoever you want to. Vote straight ticket if you want to."
Yeah. Well, it's a busy time. Even though I'm running, you still have the duties of the chief.
That's right.
We have 3 elections that are going on right now. We have municipal elections that are going to happen in August the 28th, and then you've got the
referendum,
the amendment, which is in September the 18th, and then the general in November.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very busy time for probate judges and absentee election people and poll workers. So there's a lot to go on.
Well, folks, our time is up. Again, our guest has been Probate Judge of Crenshaw County, Jim Perdue, my old friend and my same age person. We thank you all for watching Alabama Politics. Hope you'll tune in again next week. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
This This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.